I'm on this like minimalized thing, and so to have as much as possible coming out of the smallest rack is a goal. Analog output, Dante output, and MADI output simultaneously. Hi, my name's David Phipps from STS9. We're here in Chicago for our New Year's run, and I'm going to talk about my equipment. It's a pretty minimal keyboard rig these days. We've been playing together for over 20 years, 25 years, and at times it would be like your typical rock and roll keyboard rig, but now I use a 88 key controller and a Prophet 6. And a small modular synthesizer, and that's pretty much my hardware rig these days. So in the past, I've had like vintage gear, like a CS50 on stage at times, or Rhodes 88. I've had used to have a left side that had a lot of Korgs, MS2000. And bigger, a lot more modular stuff, but as I've streamlined and focused sound design that go with songs, and replicated some VST stuff, that is just more reliable and transportable than a CS50 or an actual mechanical piano. Those come out for big shows, or they stay in the studio where we're sampling or doing a lot of recording. We do run some backing tracks and sync across the stage. So there's a clock being sent from Hunter's computer to my Ableton session. We use hard-wired clock. We don't use link. I don't know why. It actually, I used it at a show a couple weeks ago, and it worked really well. I was like, holy shit, I don't know why we don't do this, but we don't. And the clock hits this, and the clock clocks the modular, delay times, arpeggio times. We also send MIDI note information from the master session, and that drives the modular, plays melodic sequences on the modular, and cues everything from lighting changes to modular sequences from the master MIDI. And then a big part of my setup is just using a bunch of mappings on a launch control assigned to Ableton. So the Prophet has, of course, its internal sounds, but is also driving up to 6 or 7 different VSTs, and just simply on volume knobs. And then I have like a master filter fader and master effect sends for delay and reverb on the synths, and delay and reverb on the piano sounds separately. So there's nothing crazy innovative, but just run Ableton in a way that I don't ever look at it. Basically, everything that I need and use in my Ableton session is mapped to these two controllers. This is kind of new. These are all program changes. So these program changes on the Prophet as well as VSTs to create stacks. I'm playing mostly synth lines, right? And piano chords. So the bottom controller is either piano, Rhodes, Wurlitzer, or organ, or combos of all. And then there's strings layered underneath the piano sounds. So strings and pads down here, and then synth lines up here. So this would be the Prophet sound, but I can bring in you know, layers, because it's also being used as a MIDI controller for the VSTs. So the modular synth, I've been into Eurorack modular stuff for over 10 years. Love this stuff. Love Eurorack. This particular rack is running expert sleepers as the MIDI to CV interface. This does a lot of other things, but what it's doing is translating the MIDI information either from the master sequence or even this is tied to I can play. This is now being played. The modular synth is being played melodically with this synthesizer, but I can also like latch an ARP. And so the modular or the MIDI is mostly driving this one modular module, the Tone Star 8106 from Studio Electronics. These guys have been around for ages. They've always made really great recreations of classic synthesizers. And this is a full voice in a module, so everything you need to make a synthesizer voice, an oscillator, a filter, and an envelope in one module. And this particular one is, you can kind of tell by the color scheme, Roland flavored, like a Juno 106 flavored filter mostly. The filter flavor is a Roland topography. And so I just love it. My first synthesizer was a Juno 106. And so this is like one voice of a Juno, right? And then the rest of it also run a second voice on this. This is another electric Expert Sleepers Distine EX. This is running the firmware of the mutable instruments plates, but it's quad plates, so it's like having 4 plates in one module. How can you say no to that? But it's super versatile. This is a digital module that can be like 50 different things. You know, can be runs all kinds of different algorithms. And then the rest of this is like mixing, some more oscillator stuff. This isn't used in this run of shows that much, but it's Rossum Electro Music, which is David Rossum of EMU, going back to the SP1200 and the Proteus and all that gear. This guy, luminary, and happens to live in Santa Cruz where I live, and we had coffee and got a simulator. It's fucking awesome. You know, it's really lucky to have this. The assimilator is like it's not only pricey, but it's the quality and the glue behind it is just it's just really special. It's really special. You don't get a sampler that sounds like this very often. Even though it just looks like a Eurorack module, it's really kind of special. You know? So the top row is more or less fixed. We in our catalog, we've probably up to like 20-30 songs now. There's MIDI note information that is part of the song that is sent to the modular, and it's just part of the song or part of the show now. And there's always 2 channels coming from him. As of right now, there's 2 channels, and so I need 2 voices, 2 complete voices. And I accomplished that with the Tone Star as a voice in a module, and the Distine EX as a voice in a module. Actually, a polyphonic synth in a module. So those 2 mixed together is what's always consistent to just be able to run the sequences that are part of the show. And then everything below that is I switch out every once in a while, is more experimental. This one is I don't know if it's made anymore. The morphing terrarium. See, a lot of the stuff I've just carried around for years, or was given part of beta testing or whatnot, and so the panels of my stuff is sometimes different than what the production was, but have lots and lots of modular synthesizers, and so yeah, the bottom row kind of switches out. I literally installed this bottom row for this run to have just a little more stuff. My first introduction to this particular format of modular synthesizer was created by Dieter Doepfer as like at the request of Kraftwerk, I want to say, if I know my modular synth history. They wanted a small format modular synthesizer, but the first time I saw one, I think in person, was Elliot Lipp had one, and he had been turned on to it by John Hughes of Hefty Records from here in Chicago. And so we met John Hughes and worked with Hefty Records in the early days of 1320 Records, our record label, and went to their studio, and it was the first like wall of, you know, Eurorack modular synthesizer, and it was like, oh, that's super cool. Definitely have to get into that. And at that time, there was only, 5 or 6 manufacturers, like the original Dieter and Livewire and Plan B, and there was like 2 stores, Analog Haven and Noisebug in LA, and that's where you went, or you ordered this stuff. And now there's probably, I would say, thousands of Eurorack manufacturers. I was one at one time. These super modules, this one and this one was a company that I was a partner in, and no longer made anymore. We stopped making stuff, luckily, before all the tariff nonsense, but we would have been shut down. A lot of this community is at risk because of tariffs and politics or whatever. But yeah, it just like from the very beginning, early days, there's like a forum. It's called Mod Wiggler now, and it was a small community. It's become quite large. A lot of people collect stuff, for the sake of collecting, which is super. It's one way to go for sure. I like to try to make I'm on this like minimalized thing, and so to have as much as possible coming out of the smallest rack is a goal of mine, and so to have actually 3 melodic voices and a whole drum machine sampler situation, mixing, filtering, LFOs, gesture sequencing, all in one rack is like, I'm like, this is pretty cool, These racks were built for us. They're kind of new. Time goes fast. They're not as new as they were, but we were hardcore Universal Audio Apollo users until these rigs were built. And I will shout out all day Universal Audio. They've supported us with plugins and hardware throughout the years, and so it's a little awkward for me to not be pointing to a Universal Audio Apollo down here, but we've made a lot of changes in our audio rig, and part of that was going to Dante and or MADI routing. And so before we would have like this crazy snake, with the whole XLRs and 12 channels of keyboards and XLRs, and there's usually like a couple guys with flashlights over here, for a lot of the day. And now it's like one cable. It's like an Ethernet cable, and so this interface is actually pretty versatile. The Ferrofish Pulse 16 DX, myself and Hunter are running this. It can be analog output, Dante output, and MADI output simultaneously. So there's like we can fold back to analog if we need to. And MADI we were running MADI for a little bit, but now we're doing this whole Dante thing. So everything, all the analog stuff goes into this. The VST stuff comes out of this, and it's sent over the one cable to monitor world and beyond. And it's really clean and one cable. Thanks for checking us out. STS9.com is the website. We're on Bandcamp. All of our shows are recorded. All of our live concerts going back to the late 90s. Thousands of hours of live music on Bandcamp, and the newest releases and studio releases. That's kind of where we feed our stuff first. So check us out on Bandcamp, STS9.